Again, the Second Amendment is not about ensuring that you have some guarantee of doing duck hunting or squirrel hunting. It's all about ensuring the security of a free state. Somebody once said that the greatest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to prevent tyranny in government. I'd like to tell you some of these examples in my own lifetime of tyranny in government. There was the so-called Patriot Act. That was responsible for the murder of an elderly grandmother named Katherine Johnson in 2003. I also faced the wrath of the Patriot Act myself. We've seen the National ID and Real ID Act. We've seen something called the Constitutional Free Zone, where the Constitution no longer applies to 2/3 of the people that live in the United States. It's a dead document. In 1992, in a place called Ruby Ridge, we saw the news stories of Randy Weaver and his family. As Randy's wife was killed, this was his son and the family dog. 1993, Waco, 17 children murdered in a church by a government gone crazy. 2001, William Cooper, the author of Behold a Pale Horse, is murdered, and he's murdered by law enforcement officers. There, in 2003, a militia leader that was a militia chaplain, Scott Woodring, was killed. We have a moral duty to protect our lives, the lives of our family, and of our nation. We can't let tyranny take hold of this country, and we only do that with the right to keep and bear arms. Now, I've heard from some people, and I wanted to answer them before I move along. They said, what would Jesus do? Well, I took a look into the Bible. 1 Timothy 5:8, but if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Luke 22:35, and he, Jesus, said unto them, meaning his apostles, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lack ye anything? And they said, nothing. Then he said unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise a scrip, and he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. Here's Jesus telling his apostles, if you don't have a sword, I don't care if you have to go hawk your clothes, get it. Because Jesus always said, self-defense is your responsibility. There's a reason that people die in mass shootings, and it's not because other folks have a gun. I'd like to give you an article here. This is from the Citizens Commission on Human Rights of Florida, entitled Antidepressants or Prescription for Mass Shootings. It points out that before the late 1980s, mass shootings were relatively unheard of, and that Prozac, quote, the most well-known SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, was not yet on the market. Dr. Peter Bregan is quoted as saying that it's only since such mass shootings have taken place under these SSRIs. I'd like to give you a little perspective on it. 26 people died in Newton, Connecticut. Every day, every single day, 27 people die as a result of drunk driving. We aren't talking about today of outlawing alcohol or requiring a background check, or that you get registered as a drunk to be able to buy a drink. But let one person be killed with a gun and it gets splashed across the headlines. Yet we know that in 90% of the cases, plus probably closer to 100% of the cases, people who are on SSRIs, these are scheduled drugs that are used for antidepressants and anxiety disorders, Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, these are all some of the drugs that they use. They're prevalent in just about all of these mass shootings. Yet the reality is, the people who give you these drugs are the very ones that Obama and his administration look to solve the problem of mass shootings. These guys get to go out and create the problem and then tell you how they're going to resolve it based upon what they're offering you. Gun control. But we've seen that the Founding Father says we have a right to keep and bear arms. So how do we resolve this issue? Well, first, I want to tell you that the Second Amendment, again, it's not about duck hunting. And I wanted to quote something from an early court decision. I want you to see how our laws are changing. This is an actual court ruling. The right of the people, old and young, men, women, and boys, and not militia only, to keep and bear arms of every description, and not such merely as are used by the militia, shall not be infringed, curtailed, or broken in upon in the smallest degree. And for all this important end to be attained, the rearing up and qualifying of a regulated militia, so vitally necessary to the security of a free state,